Autopilot Health, episode 1. We are starting a podcast. And as you can see, the name is Autopilot Health. If you don't know who I am, my name is Josh Ageeb. I'm a commercial pilot and also full-time pilot fitness coach who founded Josh Ageeb Coaching to help pilots lose 30 plus pounds in under 90 days, even with chaotic schedules, because I teach you exactly how to run your life on autopilot instead of having it run on autopilot in a way that goes against your life. So, my goal with this podcast is to keep it as raw as possible. Zero cuts. We're just here together, having a conversation. You're getting to know me and just what has worked for me and my clients to change their health, which in turn changes their life. Because health is very, very simple. Convenience is the trap. And you're going to hear me say simple. A lot of people get mad when I say simple because they're like, well, no, there's this and there's this. I'm not saying it's easy. I said it's simple. Don't put the two together. Simple does not mean easy. Simple can mean hard, but still simple. And that's what health is. Health is very, very simple. If we really break it down, to lose weight, you just got to burn more calories than you eat, and vice versa if you want to gain weight. So, the first episode, though, I want to talk about who is Josh Ageeb? Who am I? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I not flying right now and doing this full time? There's a lot of questions. Let's start off. I was born and raised in Nassau, Bahamas. That's where I lived for 12 years. And 10 years in June, actually, I've been living up here in Canada. Moved up here when I was 12. And when I moved up here, I was around planes a lot. I was always around planes when I was younger because living on an island like Bahamas, you have to fly in, out, or take a boat. There's no car rides or anything. So for me, I was always around planes a lot then. But when I came up here, there was a lot of pilots, especially in the small town that I live in. So eventually, push came to shove, and they convinced me and my family to send me for a discovery flight. That was around when I was 15. And of course, I loved it because at the time I was flight simming a lot. I was a huge X-plane lover. I flew the Zebra mod a lot. Flew into Boston a lot because that's where they had a lot of controllers and stuff, and was also flying on Pilot Edge as well. But really just building up a lot of hours on that. I was doing the reps, I was watching videos, I was obsessed. So when I did the discovery flight and flew a plane in real life, that's when it just, got the aviation bug. It was instilled in me. And sure enough, a year later, even with COVID happening, I started my training in June of 2020 to become a pilot. And as early as October 2020, I did my first solo, even after a few medical delays because of COVID. And in the following year, 2021 of August, I got my private pilot's license, which was huge because it wasn't as fast as I wanted to, but I was also still in high school at the time. So I didn't rush anything or anything like that because I still had obviously homework to do. And then on top of that, flight school. But that was good. Did that, got my night rating in January of 2022 because I was still in high school at this point. And then in May of 2022, I got my multi-engine rating. And then to be honest, the summer of 2022, I was doing a lot of family trips and I kind of took my foot off the gas a little bit. But then in September 2022, that's when all my friends went off to college and university and stuff. So I was left here in my town and I just went full in on the flight training. By December 2022, I got my Group 1 instrument rating. And yeah, from there, I got my commercial in April of 2023. And this is where I thought everything was going to take off. I'm like, oh, I got 250 hours. Actually, at the time, I only had 220-ish hours. But I finished flight school, obviously, commercial, IFR rated, all that sort of stuff. So I rented a plane actually in Waterloo, Ontario, and built up the last 30 hours. Did a lot of trips, taking family around. Just, I'm really a go-getter when it comes to like, if there's a problem, I find a solution. So for me, everyone was telling me about this exam you have to do called IATRA to get type rated on a plane. And it just helps with your resume and stuff. So I just found a plane on this one website. and just rented the plane. Met the owner, great guy, and I flew the plane around for those remaining 30 hours. And then in June of 2023, I wrote my ATRA, passed it, and I thought I was good to go. I'm like, there we go. I'm going to be on the right seat of a Dash 8 or some sort of that nature. And nothing really came, per usual. And around this time, too, let me back up a little bit. This is where I was having some health problems myself. So back in 2022, if we back it up a little bit, I was, still, I just graduated high school, going into full time student as a flight student, and I was vaping. I'll be open about that. I was vaping. It was a bad habit I picked up from high school, just from my environment. Not an excuse. I still did it, but I was vaping. Wasn't too happy about that, but I was doing that. Drinking every so often, when friends are around more than not. And my diet wasn't really that clean. Like, I was eating goldfish, Domino's, pan pizza. Like, it wasn't unhealthy compared to other people, but it still wasn't healthy, especially to what I eat now. And then I just had other bad habits too. Like, I wasn't really going to, like, I was going to the gym, but not really. And this was like late 2022. And the biggest one, which some people still don't know about me, is I was a vegetarian for 19 years of my life. So at the end of 2022, I was 18 at the time. And that's when I really started opening up to things because, my friends went off to university and college, like I mentioned. And that's where I really had a lot of time alone. And I was like, like what I'm doing goes against, being a pilot and professional and all that sort of stuff. So that's when I started really eating healthier and hitting the gym was end of 2022. But end of 2022 going to early 2023, I had some of the worst acne ever of my life. And of course, it was because of the vaping and drinking so often and the other things I was doing as well. So around that time was when I started having thoughts of like, I need to change something because if you don't know, if nothing changes, nothing changes. So I knew if I didn't change my actions, I was going to keep on living the same existence and having the same life. So that's when I got really curious about just eating meat for the first time. It was terrifying. Like, even that pause I just had, I remember all those feelings of taking that leap because it seems like the biggest jump in the world because it was 19 or almost 19, 18 years of never eating meat. Like, I had meat a few times when I was younger, but I didn't have it, late enough to where I remember. So that was huge. And then I remember also in February 2023, I got really sick as well. So not only did I have the acne, but I was sick. Like that sickness where like you just can't move, you're just watching movies all day. So that's when I just really started taking my health seriously. And then in March and April, I think it's more April of 2023, I started eating meat. And then, of course, like I mentioned, that's when I got my commercial pilot's license as well. And then by June, I was really taking the gym seriously. I was starting to like really blow up in size because I was really skinny when I was growing up. And a lot of things were going my way. And that brings us back to where I was with my aviation journey. So it's the summer of 2023, and I'm not hearing anything. I'm putting out resumes. And, me being the naive person I was coming out of flight school thinking I was so different, I didn't hear anything still. And it was mid July, end July. So I started working for my parents, saving up money. And I wasn't happy because I knew working for my parents who have their own company, I was not going towards my goal per se. It wasn't in aviation and all that sort of stuff. But it gave me a lot of time to also think about what I really want in life. Like, who is Josh besides the pilot? Because for this point, for the past 3 years, I've just been known as Josh the pilot. So it really gave me time to really think and sit with myself. And I had a trip home to Bahamas that summer, and that was a really good trip to really do just that and just think about like who am I? What do I like? What do I not like? All these deep questions that no one just sits around and thinks about. So I started going through that and worked the whole summer. Was getting a little bit distracted come September, going to see friends and partying and stuff like that. But then come the winter, I finally saved enough money to where I rented that same plane I rented in June or May in November. And I got up to 275 hours, which was huge, but still nothing. So I went with a friend, and after I saved up a little bit more money, after working for my parents, I went with a friend named Paul. He's a great guy, and we flew that same plane down the East Coast all the way to South Carolina while flying through the Hudson River. That was sick. And we flew. We were supposed to fly to Bahamas, but of course, like Bahamas has good weather, like 300 days of the year. And of course, the one week we had the plane and we're off work, there was like a tropical storm moving through. So we made it to South Carolina. We were kind of like, what do we do? Do we just fly back up the coast and go back to Ontario? Or do we just do something else? And we're like, you know what? Let's just go west. Let's just see how far west we make it. So we just went west. First night we ended up in Houston. I guess this would be the second night of the trip because the first night we were in Beaufort, South Carolina, which is just north of Hilton Head, just north of Savannah, if you really don't know South Carolina. And the third night we made to El Paso, Texas, and then we're like, whoa, like we're actually getting close to the West Coast. So we made the decision just to gun it to the West Coast. And the fourth night we made it to San Diego, which was so sick. Got to fly the visual into runway 27, which I flew countless times in the flight simulator in the Zebra Mod and X-Plane 11. There's a nerd coming out of me, but it's true. I did. So that was amazing. And then I guess it would be the fifth day now. We flew up the coast to LA, went to In-N-Out, did all that classic stuff. And we were trying to go up to San Francisco or Monterey Bay there, but we just couldn't really figure out a way to get through the airspace north. So we just went south and we went back to actually Carlsbad, South California. Pretty much San Diego, but it was really nice, I must say. Carlsbad is very, very nice. Spent the fifth night there, and then we started gunning it back to Ontario. And then the second night the sixth night, not second night, but the second night back home, we made it to Austin. And then from Austin, we gunned it all the way back to Ontario. So kind of took us like 4 days to make it out to the West Coast, but only took us 2 days to make it back. And that was cool. Went over 10,000 kilometers, 20 plus airports, got so much experience. There's some like flight planning and responsibility, like having someone else's plane like halfway across the continent and like you're paying the bills. It's not fun in the way, like the pressure was kind of not fun when we were out there. We were trying to make most of it, but it was kind of stressful, but it taught me a lot. So by that point, got back. This was December 2023, and I'll be honest, I overleveraged myself. I definitely was using my credit card to put some flights on there and, fuel and stuff like that. Cause I'm like, oh, I'm going to get a job from this. I was at 315 hours. So I was definitely in a good range. I was above the 200 in the 300s now. And I still wasn't hearing anything. But I had a trip back home to Bahamas in December of 2023. And I had a lot of thinking to do then because I was like, what am I gonna do if I can't find a job? And there's one thing that some people were telling me I could do, but I didn't want to do it. And that was flight instructing. Because part of me was just using the ego escape of like, no, I can't afford it. Like I'm kind of in debt right now. I don't want to go more in debt. But the real reason was because I didn't want to do it. It seemed way harder than just hopping in the right seat of a Dash 8 or a PC-12 or something. So I went another month, January, nothing. So it was right near the end of January. No, correction. It was early February. Push came to shove. I had an amazing friend who was able to give me a personal loan. He's like, you should probably do this and, I'll help you out with it. So I took the leap and I started my instructor rating. And took me about 3 months. I grinded it out, got it done by early May. And it pushed me way out of my comfort zone. I didn't think I was cut out for teaching. I didn't think anyone would listen to me because I was only 20 years old. Well, 19 when I started, turned 20 by the time I finished. And all these limiting beliefs were coming up. But it taught me so much. By the time I started, the good weather was coming around here in Canada. And me being me, I was flying, like 8, 10, 12, sometimes even 14-hour days the odd day. Just flying. And May went by, June went by, July went by, August went by, September went by. I was 4, 5, 6, 700 hours. And then in the winter of 2024, that is when I was very lean in 2023. Sorry, correction, 2024. When I was flying and stuff, I was, working out lean, but I was still like just kind of not really taking, like I was working out but not taking health like serious. I was still kind of eating whatever. And then it was the winter of 2024 when I was sure I was going to get a jet job. I was like, I'm at 700 hours. I'm for sure going to get a job now. Even if it's not a jet job, like in the right seat is something. And it just didn't happen. And then September went by. And then October, I got self-induced sick, let's just say it. I was, I partied a few times, and I didn't party that much in 2024. I did a lot of partying in high school, and I just had a really, weekend bender of a trip in early October 2024, and I just got self-induced into sickness, you could call it. And I felt terrible. I just something about that trip, and then also just kind of the quietness of not hearing back still from any other jobs except for my flight instructing. I just went down the rabbit hole of health and wellness. And that's when I really started just learning things like how honey is nature's medicine, and, beef is such a superfood, and just all these sort of things. And I started, sure enough, testing on myself. Started eating more beef, felt way better. Started having honey every day, felt way better. And at this point, too, I hadn't been sick since February, that time I mentioned in 2023. When I say I got self-induced sick, it was like just a bad hangover and all that sort of stuff. But like actually sick to where like it wasn't self-induced, it hadn't been until 2023 because I was still health conscious before this point. But it was with like synthetic powders like AG1 and stuff, which nothing against it. If you want to have it, go for it. I'm all for the nature solution. So that's why I take beef organ pills now, because it's nature's multivitamin, and it's just the same price, if not a little bit cheaper. And you support a local company. But anyway, it's a whole different conversation. And again, at this point, I really started diving in. I was like really hitting the gym. Like I was hitting the gym in 2024, but like I really started hitting the gym and doing research, and most importantly, like I just mentioned, testing things on myself. And that's when I really started to see changes really quick, just in energy and in the gym and all these sort of things. So with the weather getting worse, going from October to November, I had a lot of downtime again. And every time I get downtime, I started to recognize a pattern. I started going deeper into, myself and just who I am outside of flying, because I'm just known as Josh the pilot. And that's when I was just like, I'm learning all these things and I'm a flight instructor, why don't I just start posting online? And it terrified me at the beginning. At the beginning, I remember I thought about it for weeks before I actually posted my first video in the end of November 2024. But once I actually posted the video, I'm like, okay, it was another example, just like starting to eat meat. That fear is an ocean wide and an inch deep. It wasn't that bad. Maybe it got a little bit wet, a few comments, but it wasn't that bad. So I kept posting. I've been posting consistently since November 2024, and it, obviously went to December, January. And at this point, I was just posting aviation stuff, just strictly aviation stuff, just about like takeoff tips and all that sort of stuff. And it was doing good. I was building reps. I was learning how to video edit. I was learning how to film properly, all this sort of stuff. And a key lesson to anyone listening to this that maybe has the same idea for you starting to make videos or just anything in life, just start. Start now, start messy, start scared, most importantly, because, I'll put up actually a video right here of my first video. Like, I've come a long way, and you only get to that point by just taking action and going and doing it. Like, just do it. Stop thinking what other people are going to think. No one probably even remembers my first video. I mean, now they do, but you know what I mean? Like, they don't remember until I say anything. Like, people are going to forget. Like, everyone has their own problems in their own life. Just focus on what you want to do. And that's what I learned. Started posting more and more. People just don't care. You just, do it to help other people. And I got a little bit lost in it. Like, I started posting these videos that got really good views, but no education or not to help anyone. So I stopped posting those, and I posted these type of videos, and they're doing good, but same thing. And I kind of like, you kind of have to like go too far to find where the middle is. Like, you start by not doing enough, which is just not posting at all, and then you go to like posting the wrong thing, and then coming back and finding who you are, like who is Josh. And that's the thing, is I was just figuring it out at the beginning of 2025. And then a year ago, so February 2025, was when I started just posting my rent paid polls on My Instagram story. If you don't know what that means, it just means like I'm a big believer in everything in this life is rented. You have to pay your rent every single day, and your body's one of those things you have to pay. You have to pay your rent every single day. Go move your body, eat the proper food, do some resistance training a few times a week. Like pay your rent. It's not about your house rent or your apartment rent. It's about your body. Like you gotta pay rent every single day so you don't lose what you have. And that's what I've been going through silently in my mind since like October 2024. But then, of course, like during this time, I was still working out, still doing all that. So then one day I was just like, let me just post a poll or let me post an Instagram story with a poll called Rent Paid. I know people are going to make fun of it at the beginning, but you gotta, it's day one of something. You gotta start sometime. So I just did it. And then that's when it kind of became a thing. I started posting every time I was in the gym since February 2025. And then that's when I started having ideas in like March and April of 2025. Like, wait a second, what if I start posting like fitness stuff? And then that's when I got that light bulb. Like, I can help people because, at that time I was in really good shape and I was like very strict. I was really just learning stuff, like just a lot going on. And I can help people do this, but I wasn't correlating anything between aviation and fitness. I was just pretty much just completely switching to fitness. So then April and May was just me fully focused on fitness, and it wasn't really doing much because when you only focus on fitness and you don't have a niche, you're competing with everybody out there, everyone in fitness. So I wasn't getting much traction from that. But then at the end of May, I had my first client actually come find me in person because he lives near me. And he I'll never forget it. He was just like, "Hey Josh, like I need your help." And I'm just like, "Whoa." Like he came to find me in person. And I'm like, "Yeah, for sure." Like, cuz at this time I was still doing like free clients and stuff, but they weren't really going anywhere. But then like he was serious because he messaged me on Facebook, but at the time I was starting getting to learn social media and especially Facebook. I didn't use really Facebook at the time. So it got hidden every time he messaged me. But of course for my videos he knew where I flew and I knew him from the past few years, but we haven't talked in a while just because he used to live in my old neighborhood. Anyway, it wasn't a creepy thing. It was just he knew where I was. We had previous history, so he came to find me in person. And he was so confident, like he knew he needed my help and I was like, okay, like, let's do it. Like, I'll send you everything. And that's where it all started. That's when it started to click into my mind. Like, wait a second. Because if you don't know by now, he was a pilot and he was an airline pilot for major carrier here in North America. And I was just like, wait a second. What if I can help pilots get in shape and understand how important health is? And that's when it all took off really from there was when I just started posting pilot related fitness and health tips and videos and stuff like that. And then in the end of June 2025, July, I started getting a lot of traction on social media. And then that's when the next thought clicked in when I was like, should I go all in? And then at first I rejected it. I was like, no, I can't do that. Like, I have to stay being a pilot like full time and then just do this on the side. But I was getting traction, getting a few free clients still at this point because I wasn't charging. But then come early August, I started charging and getting more clients. And, you know, I was gaining more knowledge, all this sort of stuff. And I knew that with winter coming around, again, working as a flight instructor, things were going to slow down. So if I was going to go all in and quit my job, this was the time to do it because then that way I can have the runway of September, October, November, to just really go all in on my business and put my all into this so I can really help pilots. And it was terrifying. I remember thinking about it and I made the decision pretty quick. Like once something's in my mind and I'm set on something, I do it pretty quick. I don't sit around and wait. It's just the hardest thing, just like most people, is deciding if you're going to do it. But once I decided in early August I was going to quit my job, I didn't even really tell anyone. I didn't tell my parents, no one really. And the first person I pretty much talked to was my boss because I knew that if I talked to anyone else, they would talk me out of it. And no one else has the vision that I have. I have the vision of helping 1,000 pilots plus realize that health is simple and convenience is a trap and change your life for good and realize that nothing matters more than your health. I'm the only one with that vision. So it would be very silly to talk to someone else who doesn't have that vision and then be too logical with me and talk me out of that vision. And I knew what it took. Like to do something big in life, you have to go all in. You have to be obsessed about it. And it was hard to go in between flight instructing and then making videos and having clients and all that sort of stuff. And I just felt like my attention was spread out. So talked to my boss, and before I went into my boss's office, I was pacing. I was so stressed, but I knew I had the perfect opportunity. Like there's literally no one in the flight school except for the dispatcher. My boss was sitting in his office, and I was like, if I don't do it now, I'm gonna go home and regret it. And then, this is the perfect time. The perfect time is yesterday because I was actually gonna do it the day before and I didn't because he left early. But second perfect time is today. And then I did it because again, fear is an ocean wide and an inch deep. And the second I walked to my boss's office and said the first few words, it was natural. Of course, he was surprised and we talked about it, but him being an entrepreneur himself, he understood. And that was it. And gave my 2.5 weeks because that was how long it was left until September. And since then, I've just been going all in. And it's not been perfect. Again, talk about just start now, start messy, start scared. I've been everything but perfect the past 6 months. Entrepreneurship is very messy. Entrepreneurship is putting all of your flaws in a bright light. And I learned that pretty quick. But it didn't scare me. It just made me realize I have to really, really focus on doing that inner work to figure out who Josh is so I can make sure I can serve the pilots who come trust me with their health. And that's what I've been doing the past 6 months. I've not drinking and or drinking. I think it's drinking. Anyway, you know what I mean. I haven't drank in 6 months and I've been doing a lot of just work and all that sort of stuff. And, again, it's not been perfect. It's not been clean to get to this point. It's been messy, but I started. That's the most important part. Is I took that leap of just quitting, going all in, and I started. And here we are. Again, episode one. This is not going to be the most perfect episode or anything like that, but that's my backstory. Is I'm a pilot with over 1,100 hours and started flying when I was 16, and I have an extreme passion to help people who want to be helped. That's the most important part because I can't help people who don't, but help people who want to be helped realize that health is simple, convenience is a trap, and nothing is more important than your health. I would die by that. Because if you think something is more important than your health, someone is lying to you. And someone told you that because it's a lie. Your health is all that matters. And I believe in it so much that I'm literally going all in, starting this business, walking away from flying as a career to do this. Because I know that the world needs more people like me who just stand up for what they believe in. And I believe that way too many pilots fall for the trap of convenience. And once they have someone who says, no, like it doesn't have to be that way, then they can actually get out of that trap. And I'm not a person to wait around and let someone else maybe do it. I know I have the skills, and I generally do think this is what I'm put on this earth to do is to help people. And that's one of the most beautiful things too, is that I would have never found that if I didn't do flight instructing. If I would have just hopped on the right seat of a jet or a turboprop or whatever it was, I probably wouldn't have found that part of myself because I just would have been a first officer. But because I had to literally get out of my comfort zone and kill so many limiting beliefs, like for example, one of them, like no one listening to me because I was 20 years old, and just so many things like that, I realized how much I actually love teaching and love seeing other people progress and accomplish things and have them have those moments where things just click and just helping people along that journey because if you're not here to give when you're alive, then what are you here to do? The best gift in life is to give. And of course, I'm not saying I'm not here trying to grow a business and all that sort of stuff, but I'm also here to just help you. Like, this podcast is going to be free. My content is free. Me showing up every day on my stories is free. Like, yes, I do have my program, the Autopilot Method, where I do charge because it's a program and that's how I make a living and how I'm able to come and show up daily to help you for free. But I have a lot of things I do without charging a penny. And that's one thing too, is my goal is to be as authentic as possible. That's why this podcast is gonna have no cuts. That's why I'm even telling you that. Like, I'm fully transparent that I make my money from my program. And I don't expect you to pay me a dime. Just watch my videos. Everything that I teach my clients are in my videos. It's just they come to me when they want accountability and implementation. That's it. Like, I don't gatekeep any information. And I'm never ever gonna lie and say, "Oh, I'm just here to help for free." No, like, I do make a living off this. I do have a business, but at the same time, take this information. If you're one of those people who can take information that's free and implement it, do you. I'm not gatekeeping anything. Everything that I tell you, I tested on myself, like I was telling you. It's been years of testing and testing and testing. I've 180'd my life because of this information that I'm sharing to you. I went from a vegetarian who's pale, when I say scale, that it was pale, skinny, acne, all this sort of stuff, to like literally being the person who eats more meat than anyone I know. And you know, most muscle I've had, the strongest I've been, most confident I've been, like all this sort of stuff, just because of the things that I've done, the simple things. Because health is simple, convenience is a trap, and everything I teach you is from what has worked for me. And that's my goal, is to come on here, help pilots realize all of these things. And most importantly, is just health is simple. It truly, truly is. Because one thing I've learned is that if it isn't simple, it isn't the truth. Isn't that funny? How every time someone's lying to you or a company's lying to you, it's always so complicated. Like, if it's the truth, it's simple. Think about that. Like, if you asked me, "Hey Josh, did you go on a walk today?" And I went on a walk, yeah, I did. Or even better yet, yeah. But if I didn't go on a walk, well, like, I was gonna go on a walk, but it was very cold out, and like, it's kind of rush hour with like the school buses, and see how complicated that gets? The truth is always complicated. Nope, I just said it backwards. The truth is always simple. A lie is complicated. And that's what I've realized, is that if it isn't simple, it isn't the truth. So remember that when, especially the whole industry that I'm in, the health industry, all of these products make it so complicated that you just give up and buy their product to make it simple. But they don't want you knowing that health is simple. They don't want you knowing that you don't need all of these supplements, that you don't need all these crazy things to just be in good shape. You just need to do the basics. 80% of the equation is literally just the basics: sleep, movement, lifting some weights 3 times a week, and diet. That's 80%. The 20%, yes, there is supplements that do help and all that sort of stuff, but that's the fine tuning. 80% is all that matters. If you're not doing the 80%, the 20% won't matter, because the 20% complements the 80%. The 80% is like the fuselage. The 20% is like adding, new engines to the plane. The engines won't matter if you don't have a freaking fuselage to add it to. So that's all I'm here to teach. And this first episode, I just want to start off with who I am, who is Josh Ageeb, really just show you that I'm just a human. I'm a 21-year-old who, again, is a pilot with over 1,100 hours, who walked away from being a pilot as a career to do this full time, to show you pilots that health is simple, convenience is a trap. And my goal is for you just to see that. Especially with the rise of AI nowadays, the last thing I want you thinking is that I'm just here as an AI person doing AI no, like, I'm Josh. I'm human. Like, I don't know, you want me to touch myself? Like, I'm not here to be inauthentic. And that's what I can't stand online nowadays. And I think it's kind of coming to an end a little bit. But the internet's just a highlight reel. Everyone's just posting their best moments. A lot of people, a lot of your favorite influencers, I've met a few in person now. They can't speak. That's why live streaming has become so popular too, is because the few people that can speak, it's entertaining to watch because a lot of people can't. They just do their little short form content and they're reading their script from AI and they can't even go longer than 5 minutes without thinking of their own thoughts. So I'm so excited for this podcast because there's so much to come. I'll give you a hint. The next 3 episodes, so episode 2, 3, and 4, are going to be on just the basics, just to really get those out of the way. Because, again, if you don't have the 80%, the basics down packed, the advanced, complicated 20% won't matter. And if it isn't simple, it isn't the truth. And if you're listening to this and you're on the edge about starting, just remember one of my favorite quotes is one day or day one. Are you going to keep on saying one day? Or are you going to say today is day one? Are you actually going to make a change today? Because a lot of people say, one day I'll do this, one day I'll do that. No. Are you going to actually do something about it today? Because one thing I was talking about in my videos today is that if you don't do anything, that's you choosing the life that you have. A lot of people think indecision is sitting on the fence, not making a decision. But no, indecision is a decision. You are deciding to not go after the new, better, higher timeline version of yourself and just stick with who you are today because you're not changing anything. If you decide to not change anything, you are picking what you have right now. And hey, if you love your life, don't change anything. Don't all the power to you. Keep doing what you're doing. But if you know deep down, like how I knew back in 2022, you got to change and there's just something you're missing and there has to be more to life, change something. Take that leap. Jump into that ocean of fear that's just an ocean wide and an inch deep. It's not going to be that bad. It won't kill you. Trust me. I am living proof of it. I've come so far in just 4 short years, and you can too. And like I said at the beginning of, or it's kind of the middle of this episode, if you are looking to join my Autopilot Method program, the link is always going to be in my bio or link in description. But take the free value if that's all you need. But if you want implementation and accountability, I'm more than happy to work with you. Just book a call below and I'll see if you're a good fit. But I'm really excited for this podcast. We're going to see where this goes because we're just starting scared. We're starting messy. And most importantly, we're starting now. And this is episode 1 of Autopilot Health. Appreciate you even listening to this far because I bet you most people won't. And I will see you very, very soon for episode 2.